Morning peeps, blessings to you all. I just want you all to know that in Jamaica, the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act has been passed on July 3rd of this year. What this means, there is now a system in place to treat with sexual harassment in Jamaica. Sexual harassment is when persons make sexual advances towards another person trying to force a person into being sexually involved with them, meaning the person is sending text message, the person is always in that person's space, the person is stalking that person. So it doesn't necessarily mean that's the case where a person has to literally touch you, even though touching can be a part of it. But it doesn't mean that the person have to touch you to be sexually harassing you. The person can be always staring at you. The person can always be putting themselves in a position to intimidate you. Or if it's a person that is in charge, that person can be malicious. That person can make your duties more difficult. That person can try to make your life a living hell because you are not interested in whatever they are trying to get into with you sexually. And this can either be male or female. And this type of harassment can take place not only in the workplace, but it can also be a potential workplace where a person goes to seek employment. It can also be even in a taxi where you are a client. It can also be in a school setting, any environment where people are together. Whatever the situation is, there is now a system in place to treat with it. A 14-person tribunal has been selected by the minister to hear these type of complaints. But let me give you a quick rundown, especially for persons who are employers, persons who are supervisors, persons who are in charge of a company or organization, persons who are in managerial positions. Whenever a member of your staff make a complaint to you that they have been sexually harassed by another member of staff, you as the person in charge have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to hear the matter, and you have a responsibility to investigate the matter. The person who was harassed sexually need to make a complaint to you within 2 days, and you should take maximum 14 days to carry out your investigations. And the person who the allegation was made against, you are to warn that person both in writing and verbally that they are not to continue with the sexual harassment of any individual that works in your space. As a person who is in charge of any institution or organization, you are to put rules in place to prevent sexual harassment from taking place in your work environment. But in case of a situation where a staff member makes a complaint against another staff member, you are to treat with it. Whenever you get the report and you have treated with it, and that person continue to make the same sexual advances to that other staff member, this is now when you as the employer will make the report to the tribunal. The tribunal will hear the matter, and the tribunal will decide if the person was guilty and if the person is liable. The tribunal can award you as the complainant to be redressed in more than one ways. It can be an apology, it can be money, not exceeding 900,000. The tribunal can order a person to pay you for damages, because this kind of sexual harassment causes mental damage to a lot of people. You as the employer will also have to document the actions that you took. Document the report that was made to you and document all the actions that you took. You will have a register that you are to document that information in, which should be kept confidential. And if that information is not kept confidential and a member of staff sees the information and release the information, they can be liable to a fine not exceeding 500,000 or to imprisonment. Sexual harassment does not only take place in big organizations. There are a lot of persons who operate bars, who employ bartenders with the mindset that the bartender should be involved with them sexually. A lot of persons who operate taximen harass a lot of females sometimes to get into sexual relationships with them. And even though these ladies refuse, sometimes these persons keep on stalking them and pressuring them. That is sexual harassment. In cases like those, the person will have to report the matter directly to the tribunal. Sexual harassment does not only happen if the person is employed. It can happen if the person is trying to get employed. Like for example, you're trying to get a job and the person who is doing the interview is saying that if you become sexual with them or promise to become sexual with them, you will get the job. That is sexual harassment also. So it doesn't mean that you have to be employed for the offense to be committed against you. I need you all to know that persons who are of unscrupulous mind and are willing to go about and lie about sexual harassment, you have to note this is also an offense for a person to maliciously tell a lie on another person that they committed a sexual harassment against them, and they can also find themselves into problem for making such trouble. A lot of persons who are being sexually harassed at their workplace will not say anything to anyone because sexual harassment causes a lot of mental stress. A person will think to themselves that if they make a complaint about being harassed by their boss, they might lose their job. Other persons will look down on them. So a lot of people who are going through these type of stress do not want to talk about it. But based on this act that have been passed now, a lot of persons should feel more confident to make a report as it relates to sexual harassment because there are many different avenues to go through. And the fact that you are making this report, your employer cannot be malicious against you, because if your employer is malicious against you for making the report to the tribunal, the employer is setting himself up or herself up to get into further problems based on the act.